With the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix taking place this weekend, let's have a dive into what we can expect from this race. For anyone who watched Imola last year, they probably know how crazy of a race it was. It was probably overlooked as it was on early in the season, but it was probably one of my favourite races of last year. With Hamilton going off into the gravel and ruining his front wing, but then managing to recover under the red flag and coming second, a Verstappen win and Lando on the podium, it was a crazy and unpredictable race. In this video I'm going to recap the season so far, go through the new sprint quali weekend and point updates, go through tyre, weather and strategy, and my predictions for the race, so be sure to stick around. Let's have a quick look at the season so far. Ferrari with a 1-2 in Bahrain put them ahead early on in the constructors. Mercedes collecting points due to a double DNF from Red Bull, although they were slower than them. Haas collecting points by Magnussen and Bottas collecting points for Alfa Romeo was surprising but brilliant results for their teams. Ocon, Tsunoda and Alonso were also collecting points for their team, and Zhou Guanyu scored a point on his debut Formula 1 race. Saudi Arabia seemed to favour the Red Bulls, although there was not much in it between the Red Bull and Ferrari. Hamilton going out in Q1 was probably the biggest shock of the weekend, but George Russell managed to score some points with a P5 finish. Ocon with a strong result in P6, Lando a much improved result in P7, Gasly, Magnussen scoring points for the second week in a row, and Hamilton finishing in P10. What a weekend it was for Charles Leclerc and the Ferrari. A dominant display and arguably one of his best performances in F1 to date. Pole position, fastest lap and winning the race, no driver could get close to him all weekend. Perez in P2 after his teammate Max Verstappen DNF'd once again. Sainz had a weekend to forget. The two Mercedes, Russell and Hamilton were there to pick up more points, with Lando and Daniel Ricciardo from McLaren there with a much stronger weekend. Lando said that this was the same car we saw in Bahrain, this track just suited their car much more. Ocon, Bottas and Gasly were there to pick up valuable points for their teams respectively, and Albon with the 57 hard tyre lap strategy to collect a single point for Williams. So let's have a look at the weekend format. Those who are new to F1, this may be your first sprint qualifying weekend, and everyone's welcome to this channel, so let's have a little look into things. Instead of the typical Friday practice, Saturday qualifying and Sunday race, things are a little bit different. Friday sees one practice session before qualifying. The result of this qualifying will lead to the grid in the sprint quali race. This is a 21 lap race with no mandatory pit stop. The result from sprint quali will set the grid for the Sunday's race. This is a full length race and typical to most Sunday races. With sprint qualifying being introduced last year and it not going down massively well, there have been a few changes. The main change is the point system. Last year, first position saw you score 3 points, second 2 points and third 1 point. This measly 6 points on offer was not much motivation for drivers to push and risk damaging their car for the race on Sunday, where there are much more points on offer. This year sees 36 points on offer, 6 times as much, so it leads to more motivation to drivers to push, gain positions and make overtakes in this sprint qualifying race. So what tyres are going to be used for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix? The C2, C3 and C4 tyre compounds are going to be used, and we have seen this before already this season in Saudi Arabia. Will this be the first time we see the wet weather tyres this season? Saturday sprint qualifying looks dry, but it could be an interesting race with strategy if there's rain, and qualifying looks like it's going to be wet. This is likely to change before the race, but we're likely to see some form of rain during the weekend. So with excluding the wet weather tyre strategy, as this will likely be same for all drivers, let's have a quick look at what strategy we could expect drivers to see for the sprint qualifying race, as it is expected to be dry. This is the tyre compounds used by the drivers in Saudi Arabia. It's the same compound as going to be used in the Imola race. As you can see, all but 3 drivers opted for the C3 and then moving on to the C2 hard tyre strategy, except Kevin Magnussen, Lewis Hamilton and Nico Hülkenberg. As you can see, the C4 tyre was on offer during this race, but no one opted to use it. No one opted to use the soft tyre in Melbourne 2 weeks ago as well, so this is going to be interesting to see if drivers use the soft tyre for the sprint qualifying race. Let's have a look at the average, max and minimum laps used on each tyre. The minimum laps excluded Bottas's 1 lap as he was just doing the final lap on his C3 stint. So the C3 average was 13.6 laps compared to the C2 32.8. With sprint qualifying being 21 laps, it'll be interesting to see what tyres are used. Will the C3 medium last long enough? You'd expect so, as most drivers used the soft tyre for sprint qualifying last season. The tracks are similar to tyre degradation as the same compounds are used, but the max amount of laps used on the C3 was only 16. So can they squeeze another 5 laps from these tyres, or would it be best to do an Albon and use the C2 and push harder on this hard tyre? So let's quickly go through each team and what I'm expecting from the Imola 2022 Grand Prix. Ferrari have had a great start. They're just looking for more of the same really. They had an upgrade package scheduled, but this is delayed until after Imola with a lack of time to incorporate the upgrades before quali with just the 1 practice session. Mercedes have probably over-delivered more than any team with their car so far, and would be much lower if not for the Red Bull's DNFs. Speaking of Red Bull, they've had 3 DNFs so far in the 3 races, so 50% of their drives have been a DNF. They need to fix this reliability, but their pace is not far off Ferrari when they can deliver. A Lando podium last season here, and being great in the wet last year, here and in Sochi, can expect good things to happen. Double Formula 1 World Champion Emerson Fittipaldi predicts Mercedes will have the pace to compete for a podium at this year's 2022 Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Alpine, especially Alonso, looked absolutely rapid at Melbourne. If they can fix their reliability, I think they can deliver good points here. Alfa Romeo have got off to a strong start, especially with Bottas. They are looking for both drivers to score more points after the good results in Bahrain, and they need to stay in the mix. Haas have had a night and day difference on last season, but they need to keep up the pressure. They have been investigated for Ferrari sharing development information, as teams like Mercedes and McLaren have suggested this investigation to go ahead. Gasly finishing P5 here last year, and with them being one of the teams that are bringing upgrades, which Gasly said can unlock the potential of their car. Williams. Will Albon go for the hard tyre 1-stop again, or will he go on the mediums and do a real no-stop strategy? Is he going to climb using the C2 again? We will see, but I expect Williams could potentially have a good race this year. Aston Martin. I think this is a good weekend chance for Aston Martin. The unpredictability with the rain and chance to climb up the field in sprint qualifying, as there is more time on the track and more time for errors, especially in the rain. They need to stay in the mix, and they might be able to collect some points at the end of the race. So I'm going to give 3 predictions I think for this race. These are sort of bold predictions, they're not going to be anything safe. I'm going to review these in my post-race reaction and see how close I can get. Number 1, Ferrari not in the top 3. This year I think Ferrari are not going to make a top 3. I think the rain's going to host a lot of unpredictability, and it is a great leveller in performance. Number 2, Red Bull quickest car. As we saw last year, Verstappen was amazing in the wet. I think as their pace was not for Ferrari, I think we can see Red Bull look to be the quickest car this weekend. Number 3, Albon points, Latifi no points. I think the rain could be a good chance for Williams to play with strategy and score good points again. I think Albon, we could see him in the points, but unluckily for Latifi, I can't see this happening. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. Put a bold prediction down below about this race and I will go through all these predictions after the race and see if anyone can get anything correct. I'd also like to thank everyone for the amount of views I've received on these videos over the past couple of weeks. The growth has been amazing. As you can see, a massive percentage of my viewers are not subscribed to the channel. If you could subscribe, like and all that stuff, that would help the channel grow massively and help me to produce more content for you guys. Thank you for watching again, and I'll see you soon.